We normally keep our masks on when we're interacting with folks, but our brave filmographer is very distant from me, and so you can hear me and understand what I'm saying. I'm going to take this off for right now. We're in Macmillan Hall, and what I'm going to show you today is a typical classroom where we teach our English classes, and I'll talk to you a little bit about what the English program is like. So come on in here, this is right across from my office. So the English department at Wells has two tracks. There is the literature concentration and the creative writing concentration. Both are degrees in English, and the difference is really just the degree of emphasis. The creative writing students spend more time doing creative writing, and the literature students spend more time studying literature. But they are integrated, they take the same classes, it's just the balance of what they have to take. Even the senior thesis project is integrated. Creative and critical students are in the same senior thesis class. They're just pursuing their individual projects in parallel. So each senior thesis is conceived of by the student in collaboration with their faculty mentor, and we work together to make sure that it is something that they're excited about, and it can be whatever the student wants it to be, as long as it falls into the basic guidelines of the requirements of the thesis. So those happen together. And I would say one of the things that makes us distinctive from other English departments is our emphasis on making things here. If you're in the literature concentration, you would have to take at least one creative writing class. Many students take more, but our theory is if you're going to spend your time critiquing and analyzing and thinking about literature, part of your engagement with that needs to be trying to write some. And similarly, we work very closely with the Book Arts Center to make things around and about literature across campus as well. So what I have here is an array of broadsides and chapbooks. And the broadsides I work on with colleagues in the Book Arts Center and with students who are just interested and excited to do this. This one is a translation by Joshua Corey of a poem by Francis Ponge. And this design is actually just a piece of driftwood that we found by the lake, and we decided we want to print that. That would be a fun thing to print. And similarly, this one, a poem by Kevin Gonzalez, part of the conceit of the poem is that the speaker is driving to a casino. And as we were debating, me and my colleagues in Book Arts and the students who were involved in making this broadside, we were debating what sort of visual element do we want on this. Someone threw out as a joke, like it would be fun to run it over because it's taking place in a car. And I said, there's a stack of tires just a few miles down the road that I passed on my way into campus. And so I went and got one, and we ran over each broadside with an inked up tire to make this broadside. And so there are these beautiful artifacts where, because I run the Visiting Writers Series, these are poets who came to read, and that's part of how we celebrate each event when they could happen on campus pre-pandemic. We'd invite the poet to campus, they'd stay, they'd give a reading, maybe a master class or another talk, and we would make a broadside sort of celebrating their work. And it's a great way for my students to get a hands-on experience of literally working with the poem, holding the text of the poem. This is one last broadside that I just wanted to share with you because it's special to me. I wrote this one. Wells asked me to write a poem to celebrate the sesquicentennial, the 150th anniversary of the college. And that seemed terrifying to me. Occasional poems are not a thing that I love doing. They're very hard. And so my solution to that problem was to create a 150-line poem exclusively using language that Wells students have written over the years. So I went into the archives, I found old issues of our student literary magazine, The Chronicle, and its predecessor, the pamphlet for the Phoenix Literarum Society. And I just pulled out lines and phrases that I thought were really beautiful, and I arranged them into this poem. And part of the fun thing during our sesquicentennial celebration, I had these alums come up to me after I read the poem and said, "You took one of my lines," that they wrote in like 1970, and it was really an extraordinary thing to see. So these are just some of the beautiful things that we make with the Book Arts Center. But they are not built into classes necessarily. They're just things that students get to do if they're interested in them. They have the access, they have the opportunity. If you're a student who really likes poetry and likes making things, I get to know that very quickly. The people at the Book Art Center get to know that very quickly. And then when we need help doing a fun, crazy project that we dreamed up, we ask you to join us, and it's really part of the fun. However, if you're in the poetry classes, it's part of the class to make some things with your work. And so this is a chapbook called A Catalog of Aches I Know. And these are all of the students who were in the class who contributed to the chapbook. And they set the poems, they helped with the book design, they bound each book with thread. And we decided things like, this looks pretty good, but the corners were square. We have a corner rounder, don't we? Yes. And so a student ran and grabbed it and started rounding the corners. And so we worked collaboratively to make the book into something we're all excited by. The interiors of this are laser printed though, because setting each poem in metal type was a big ask for the intro class. This one came from my advanced poetry class though, and you can see that the poems are in response to these images that we found in the Book Art Center. But each student had to hold each piece of type for their own poem in their hand. They had to consider each letter, each space, each piece of punctuation, and weigh it before they put it on the press to actually make the poem. And why we do this is that actually making a thing changes your relationship to it. Most creative writing happens, for the most part, in the imaginary sort of infinite space of a Word doc or a Google Doc or something like that, where the margins are flexible and arbitrary and you have infinite freedom to lay it out how you like. When we introduce material constraints like this, like now you have to figure out where your poem sits on the page, how wide the line is, if you really want this comma, you introduce all of these problems, and any writer will tell you that infinite freedom is a kind of trap, and the constraints that are available to you, if you do something like this, can be incredibly generative. They can change your first thought that you maybe didn't interrogate into something much more rich and robust. So I'm really proud of the work my students have done with these chapbooks, and I'm really excited that I get to do this work with them. If you would like to learn more about what we do at Wells in general or here in English, please come visit us. We are open, we are available, and we are welcoming visitors to campus. Thanks so much for listening.